Okay. So then by 2005, you were on the Secret Service most wanted fugitive list.
Right. Yeah, they were actively looking.
They were looking for you, but they weren't actually catching you. Because then by 2006, you moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and then you borrowed another $2.5 million.
Right. I was gonna say prior to that is when I actually went to go cash a check for 29,000, and another time I actually got caught in the bank where they handcuffed me and brought me to the police station. That was prior to me moving to Atlanta or me moving to Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay, yeah. So what really led to you actually being caught?
Well, I mean, I was running a scam in at one point after we got the 400,000 from Atlanta, we went to North Carolina, Charlotte, got a nice apartment building or nice. We rented a condo downtown Charlotte, but it was we only had 300,000 or 400,000, and we're quickly going through the money. We're buying new cars. Both of us have new apartments. We're not living together anymore. Becky and I was unable to be around her for very long. She was bipolar. She's not taking her medication. It was just a disaster. So I start running a scam in South Carolina in Columbia, or is it Columbus? Forget. Anyway, so I start running a scam, and what I do is we'd gone to Vegas and I'd surveyed a homeless guy and I got his information. And when I got his information, I then ordered all of his information, went to South Carolina, and I got an ID in his name. I then turned around and I bought 2 houses in his name. I convinced the owners to owner finance me the houses. I then satisfy the loans on both of those houses. The houses are in my name, Gary Sullivan. I'm the homeless guy in Vegas named Gary Sullivan. He has no credit, but I do have 2 houses that are paid off. So I then apply for mortgages with multiple banks on these homes. I borrow $1.3 million on these 2 houses. One of the houses has like $900,000 on it. It's a house worth around $225,000. I borrow about $900,000. So it turns out I go into the bank. One of the companies I had borrowed money in or tried to borrow money in, I applied for. The mortgage broker went on vacation. By the time she got back from vacation and was going to do the closing or schedule the closing, the title abstractor went down and figured out that there were 3 mortgages on the house. Now, there were actually like 6 or 7, but she only found 3. So I go into Wachovia one day and I'm cashing checks. I go in, I'm withdrawing funds. I asked for like $7,000 or $8,000, whatever it was. But by this point, there'd been a notice placed on the account to have me arrested. So they're counting out $7,000, and 2 sheriff's deputies walk in behind me, and they grab me and they pull my arms behind my back and put handcuffs on me. They walk me into an office, sit me down, and they say, "Mr. Sullivan, we've been told to detain you until the detective gets here." Guy pulled my wallet out. He had my wallet. I'm waiting. The detective gets there. He's a guy in his mid-30s, early 30s. And he walks in and he says, "Hey, Mr. Sullivan, my name is Detective," whatever his name was. And I say, "Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "I want to let you know, that there's been a complaint filed against you from Wachovia and for fraud." And he said, "Apparently you have 3 mortgages on your house." And I said, "Is that illegal?" And he goes, "To be honest," he said, "I don't know." I remember when he said that, I remember thinking, oh, I'm walking out of here. All I've got to do is convince him that I haven't done anything illegal. They only know about 3 mortgages. I know I can spin this. So he sits down, he gets the head of Wachovia's fraud department on the phone, and that guy ends up saying that I'm running a shotgunning scam, which is exactly what I was running. And he starts explaining that I'd closed the loan so quickly and they were all first mortgages. And I start explaining they were not first mortgages. There was a first mortgage, a second mortgage, and a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit. And he starts saying, no, he's pulling the money out in cash. And then the detective said, why are you pulling it out in cash? This guy's on speaker. Well, no, he's on a speaker. He's actually not on a speaker. He's actually on the phone. And he says, why are you pulling it out in cash? And I explain, well, I'm cashing checks for some of the day laborers that work for my company. And so as he's throwing out questions, I'm answering the questions. I've got all the answers. I've had months to prepare to prepare this. This guy just found out yesterday. So the detective is going back and forth between me and the head of the fraud department for Wachovia, and eventually he says, he's like, "Why'd you borrow three mortgages? Why didn't you borrow just one?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, I don't know." I said, "I went to Wachovia, and Wachovia said their lender or loan officer said I told her I needed about $500,000, and she said She told me she could get me the $500,000. She said, but I can only get you out, so much money. But I have a friend that can get you a second mortgage. And she works at Sun Trust." I said, "Oh, okay." Or was it First Fieldstone Mortgage? She can get you a second. I said, so I went to her, and she said, I can only give you this much, but I got a friend that works at Sun Trust. She can get you a HELOC. I said, now, maybe all of these loan officers did something wrong, but I didn't. I wouldn't know how to put this together. And I actually pull out my business card and give him my business card. And I go, I work for a labor company. I wouldn't know how to do this. What makes more sense? That a bunch of loan officers got together and figured out how to commit fraud so they could get some nice broker fees, or that a guy that works for a labor company figured out how to defraud these banks out of $500,000. So he starts saying, yeah, this doesn't make sense. I don't think this guy's done anything wrong. This guy, the Wachovia guy, starts screaming and hollering. He says it's fraud. He goes, look at his ID. His ID starts with 000. It's not even him. Well, he'd run my ID, and he knows it's a real ID because it was a real ID from the DMV there. It's my picture. It's not me, but it's my picture. So he says, no, it's Gary Sullivan. Our IDs start with 000. It's him. I ran him through NCIC. So I remember I lean over and I go, oh, now I'm not Gary Sullivan? I go, come on, man, what are we doing here? And he goes, yeah, listen, I don't think this guy's done anything wrong. So he says, I'm going to bring him downtown. I'm going to have him fill out a police report. And I'm going to let you know, and you have to fill out a police report. You have to file an official complaint with the DA. And so he lets me go to my car and drive to the police department with the sheriff behind me, and he's in front of me. And when I'm on my way there, Becky calls me, Rebecca Halk. She calls me, and she's like, where have you been? What are you doing? And I said, listen, I just got caught in the bank. I'm going to the police station. She's like, get on the interstate, get on the interstate. I said, I can't get on the interstate. I've got to play this out. I got to go to the police station. I said, but don't worry about it. And I said, we'd had this conversation many, many times. If I were to get arrested, they're not going to fingerprint me or run my prints right away. This was 15 years ago. Because my identity wasn't in question. Said, so you can get me out on bond before they run my prints. Because a lot of small police departments back then didn't run prints right away. So she says, I say, the worst that happens is I'll be arrested as Gary Sullivan. And she goes, I'm not getting you out on bond. I'm not getting you a lawyer. She said, you got to leave right now. And I said, I can't leave. I got to play it out. So I pull in the police department. I go inside with him, with the detective, fill out the police report. He asked me to wait in the hallway while he talks to his lieutenant. I go in the hallway, and there's all of these wanted posters on the wall. My wanted poster was on the wall. My color was the only color wanted poster on the wall. Matt Cox had my wanted posters on, me and Becky. He walks up, I'm staring at it when he walks up behind me. Scared the shit out of me. He's like, hey, Gary, you ready to go? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. So he walks me outside. He tells me, look, do me a favor. Don't leave the area, because we're going to want to talk. I said, of course, I own 2 houses here. I'm not going to leave. I get in my car. I go straight to another bank. I pull out another $9,000. I go straight to another bank, They actually, realize the women recognize me and they're calling the cops. So I turn around, get in my car, and I leave. And I drive to Houston, Texas, because that's where Becky was at the time. She'd already moved to Houston. We were relocating because I was supposed to pull out the money. So we ended up getting like $600,000 out of the $1.3 million.